morning, everyone. So I hope you're doing all well. How are you?
I am fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. So, guys and girls and everybody interested, we are here with Christine from Ferraris Law, and she will give us some insights to what we need to know when we are thinking about hiring a contractor to improve our home. So, Christine, what happens when we pay a contractor, but we're not happy with the work and we don't really have proof or anything legit to go on to argue with the guy? So yeah, just like, what do we do?
Yeah, I would, and that's a very good question, because a lot of people, they just, they don't do anything because they don't know what to do as a first step. Generally speaking, you want to have someone evaluate the work that was done. So an independent repair person, whatever that is, if it's the roof or whatever, you have to have them come in and say what hasn't been done, what hasn't been done correctly, and then provide you with an estimate to do it at least to the point where you were expecting it to be done with the prior contractor. So then you have an amount of what you need to get the job done. And then you can hire a lawyer, or you can try to negotiate with that contractor and say, okay, this is what I've found out, that the amount of money that's necessary to complete the project. And depending on if you've paid them all the amount of money that you for the whole project, or if you've paid up to a certain point, that will kind of narrow the scope of whatever it is. You're going to ask that maybe one or two other contractors to provide you with some information, and you want it to be documented, right? So that you can go over that with, if you have to file a complaint, or if you have to try to work with that contractor and say, okay, this is what I understand hasn't been done or wasn't done to the standard of good workmanship.
Oh, that is such interesting information. Now we know a little bit more. The other thing I wanted to ask you is, what are some of the things we should look out for in a construction contract when we are thinking about hiring a contractor?
Okay, so that's another good question, because there are different states, at least in the United States, sometimes have requirements for what the minimum amount of information that needs to be in a contract from a contractor. Now, this is a licensed contractor. That's the first thing you want to look for. And you can go to the Register of Contractors in Arizona. And generally speaking, most contractors are licensed. So you want to go to that state authorizing licensing body. They usually have an online portal for wherever you are, and look up the contractor to see, number one, if they have a license, number two, if they have insurance and a bond, and number three, if anybody else has complained about their work. So those three things are really key before you even are thinking about the contract, just to know, should you even waste your time, looking at this person further to do the work that you're thinking about having done. Now in Arizona, and it may be the same in other states, I'm licensed in Arizona and Massachusetts, and I know in Massachusetts, they have an actual law that says certain things that need to be in there. In Arizona, it's Arizona Statute 32, and I'll read it from my screen, 1158. And essentially there's 9 items that it wouldn't seem to make sense to be in the contract. The license number of the contractor, so you know that they're licensed, the amount of money that the contract is for, and the amount of a deposit, the estimated time for the work to be done, and if there's going to be payments along the way, what those dates are, and what the work that's going to be done at that time. Now, you obviously want the name of who's actually going to be obligated under the contract. So you want to make sure it's the contractor himself as well as his company. And then who, as part of the homeowner, on the homeowner side, if it's both the husband and the wife or the spouses, who is actually going to be responsible for the payment of the contract. Because sometimes things happen where you want to be able to enforce a contract, and if only one party is on that contract, the other person can't necessarily always enforce that, and that depends on the states and their laws relative to community property and all of that. So you want to make sure whoever wants to enforce that contract is on the contract. And I would, and generally speaking, there's also one other provision on in most states. On every contract, it should provide, like, if you have a problem, who to contact, like the Arizona Register of Contractors, if you have a problem with the contractor. Sometimes they will come out and actually look at the work themselves too, to inspect, to make sure things were done to code. But they will only do that if it's a licensed contractor. So it's always very important. The key takeaway is to make sure that that contractor is licensed, because you never know what's going to happen. And if you work with somebody that's unlicensed, you don't have as much support behind the law, because the laws for that apply to contractors apply to mostly to licensed contractors. Now, that's not to say you don't have a potential way of enforcing a contract, because there's just straight breach of contract types of laws that help protect people and fraud and deception. And that's what we focus here at A Ferraris Law, is those contracts where people don't hold up to their promises and, and try to get out of, and I don't want to say get out of, but for some reason they're not meeting their obligations.
Wow. So that is some powerful information. I think we all know exactly what to do now when we are thinking about hiring a contractor. Thank you so much for your time, Christine, and for your valuable information. I think there's a lot of people who can gain a lot of insight from this short video for us. So thank you so much, and may you have a wonderful day further.
Oh, thank you very much, Lizette. It was a pleasure.
Okay. Thank you.